Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the day that we all have been waiting for. This is the Blacknificent show where we really engage issues that are affecting the Black child, and we really open about those issues and as well spotlighting Black excellence. So today we are having wonderful guests. We are discussing a very sensitive issue or emotional issue, if I may say. But I hope even as we discuss, every one of you guys will just enjoy the show. And to our guest Senzo and Gosnati, we welcome you to this beautiful session of ours. You are welcomed, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite, and good evening to fellow Arise Black Child members.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Rams. Thank you for the opportunity, and greetings to everyone who's with us.
Yes. Today's topic is son, grief, and life beyond the father loss. We're talking about the Father's Day triggers. The Father's Day triggers. We know that last week we had a Father's Day on Sunday, and as young men, I think the three of us have had an experience of losing a father. And last week we had the Father's Day, which triggered a lot about uh, how we miss our fathers and how we grieve our fathers. So for me, this topic is very personal, and I feel like it will help us to understand how, as young men, feel about losing a father, and as well how probably other men may learn from us or even understand how the loss of a father in one's life affects them. So yeah, today we speak about how it triggers. So on Sunday last week, I remember from my side, I had not gone to church. I was trying to rest, and suddenly I saw people posting Happy Father's Day, and I couldn't post it on Facebook. I couldn't post it on WhatsApp because I felt like I can't celebrate it. I was detached to the moment of celebration. I was grieving, missing my father, hoping, wishing if he was still alive, I would have bought her something. I would have sent her some gifts. I would have called him like we normally do. So yeah, that's how I was triggered. My trigger made me not to even want to post anything on social media. So the first question is, how did Father's Day trigger you missing your dads on Father's Day? Let's start with you, Mr. Senzo.
Well, as we grow older, for me, I miss my father more the older I grow, because you miss your father's wisdom, and when you come to a certain age, you feel that the voice of a father would have made a difference. So on Father's Day, for me, when I saw everyone celebrating, I just had to to post those pictures that you saw on the WhatsApp platform. Um, to just I hardly speak about my father, but not because he was a bad father, because of the experience. So I just posted his pictures to just to commemorate the type of man that he was, and to show to say to people that I did have a good example. I had a good father to look up to, and I think that was worth celebrating. As much as those memories can be emotional at times, but I felt that I just had to to say that I really had it, to say that I really appreciate that. So that was my way of reminding myself of who he was, and reminding also my siblings and those who knew him. I thought he was a great man.
And for you, Nkosinathi?
Well, for me, it's a very peculiar case because Father's Day happened on my dad's birthday. So the 20th of June was my father's birthday. And that is why I had so many things to write, so many things to say, because not only was his birthday, but so last year, 2020, on the 20th of June, I was with him, and he was sick on his birthday, which was on a Friday. And on that Sunday, it was on Sunday, it was Father's Day. And then on that particular Wednesday, he passed away. So it was not just a moment of it's just Father's Day, but it brought a lot of emotions to say that today is your birthday, and on this very week, it was Father's Day, and a few days later, I lost you as a father. So amongst many other things, because I think I am still benefiting from a lot of things that he taught me, from a lot of relationships that he made. So it was a matter of, I'm thankful that even when you are not here, I can still live, I can still do things for myself. I'm a man as I am, and it's because of the men that you were. So I think in one of my statuses, I mentioned that if I can have half as good a heart that you had, then I would be a very grateful man. And I think it gave me a time of reflection to say that you were the man, you were one person that I knew for sure loved me. And although it saddens me that you are not here on your birthday, you are not here on Father's Day, but I will celebrate you, and I'll celebrate your life, and I'll be forever thankful for all the things that I think you've done for me.
Wow. I can hear a sense of speaks about the memories that he has of his father, and you are touching on how you reflected on him. And while you guys mentioning that, I went back to my fondest memories of him as a young boy. My father used to do the 7 to 7 kind of work. You leave in the morning around 4 o'clock, around 5. So what my father will do, these are my fondest memories. So what my father will do, he will open a geyser, obviously, and pour water on the bath and bath, And after finishing the bath, the water will still be hot because he's rushing. And he will wake me first up and say, hey, I can't waste the hot water. The hot water cannot be wasted. Go and wash yourself with the water that I just went out. And literally, I would find the dirty water, and then I would have to come into the water and really bath, and so that everyone else, when they wake up, they find me already. I have bathed. I think that happened until I was 15. I think that happened until I was 15. It's every morning when he went to work, especially in winter. He would actually wake me up and say, go bath, use the same water that I used. We can't waste electricity. We can't waste the hot water. So with you guys, what are your fondest memories of your father as young boys, as young kids? You can come in, Nkosinathi.
Well, no, they are many, but most of which are very fun memories. I think my dad was funny, right? He used to say a lot of funny things. I remember this other time. So being a naughty boy from school in grade 9, I had a then girlfriend. So my father saw me and that girlfriend walking, and immediately after, sorry about that. So I came back at night. So when he came back from work, he decided to take me for a drive. I remember we went to KFC, and he told me how I should shift my focus from girls and to school, because apparently I was doing very well and he didn't want anything happening to that. And as soon as we got home, I opened the gate and he said I must come inside the car before he parks. So he then said, no, man, that's the worries me. And I was like, like, I think that has been that. Like every time when he mentions someone or something bad, like he would end that thing in a lighter note to say that, okay, although I'm warning you and although I'm giving you instructions, but I'm doing that because I love you and I'm doing that because I care for you. It is not a thing of I'm just giving you all these things because I didn't pass through such experiences. I did pass through such experiences, and because I am so fond of you and because you are one of the children that I can speak to, because I think I am the one who my dad was able to speak to, would spend hours in his room at night, speaking, telling me also about my siblings, telling me about so many things. And I think he could vent in me to some extent. So, yeah, man, my memories are that, and those long talks at night when I'm just sitting in his bed and I'm just asking him questions, and he just calls me Vanagit. Yeah, so I think, yeah, no, that's it, man.
Over you to Senzo, your fondest memories as a young boy.
Those are wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. Wonderful. What I remember about my father the most is that he loved work. He was a workaholic. Well, for me, I just wanted to grow up and be like my father. He would wake up early in the morning. Before he went to work, he would actually go to his vegetable garden, make sure it's in order. Then he would come back, then go to work. Sometimes when he comes back from work, he would do the same thing before he sits down and rest for the night. So I think for me, my father's work ethic was just the best. He loved working with his friends a lot. I remember this other time he would collect sand and he was making bricks. So that process, I don't remember the duration, but it took quite some time. But he had the patience to actually one bag at a time, just make bricks every weekend when he's not at work. And those bricks actually they were enough to build a house. So his work ethic. So for me, his work ethic was just amazing. All I wanted was just to grow up one day and be like my father.
So speaking of work ethics, I think as a technician, I wake up very early to work. Like I leave when it's still dark, and sometimes I feel like, where he is, he's very proud. He's very proud of me because I'm doing the very same thing that he used to do, waking up early in the morning, and going to work. Now, I would like us to go back to this day when you just heard that your father has passed on, whether you have seen it or whether you have heard it. I remember with me, I was at work, and I'm a very bubbly person by nature, and so my colleagues know me very well that I speak a lot, I make everyone laugh, and yeah, I'm just that kind of a person. So I just had that moment when my sister called me and said, "Can you talk?" I like, can I talk? I'm like, oh, okay. You're like, seriously, can you go to a place that it's solitude and can we talk? I'm like, okay, no, it's fine. I went out. I did not go because I was already busy at work. I was busy doing some testings there. So I answered the call there and there. And my father and my sister told me that no, my father has passed on in the early hours of the morning, and I need to come back home. So when I heard that, I really broke out. I broke out. I couldn't believe it. I cried and everyone looked at me, and already my colleagues understood what was happening, though they did not know who it was. And so they took me to the restroom. I was really emotional. I couldn't hold back. And at that time, what was going in my mind was, I have not yet made it. I have not yet made it. That was the first thing. The second thing, we are still preparing to our married things, our lobola setup. We're just communicating about it. When are we gonna pay lobola? And when I just had that, I felt like you can't leave when the situation we're supposed to move and really see your son becoming a man and marrying you and bringing a wife home. So I was very emotional. I couldn't hold back. Then I had to go home. So for me, guys, I really cried. I know with you let us know how your emotional your emotions were provoked when you just heard that your father has passed on, especially with all the masculine compulsion to be stoic and to be strong, which messes up with the black man to say you must be strong, men do not cry. So how did you grieve your father's loss at the moment where you heard the news? Can you bring us into the picture, Senzo?
Sure. Yeah, it was it was a very emotional day. What had happened actually, that my father was injured at work. So when he was injured, I was still writing my exams, my second year exam. It was the 4th of November. So the family actually never gave me the full details of what was happening. I guess they were trying to protect me. So when I finished my exam, I went home. When on that morning, because I actually got a lift from one of the was gonna pass through with them. So as soon as I got home, there was a car outside, and they were preparing to leave. So I asked them where they were going, and they said they're going to check on my father in the at the hospital. But it's fine. I should just go inside and then update me when they come back. And at that time, actually, he had already passed on. So that I didn't know the news. But the strange behavior told me that actually something is actually wrong. Then even my mother at that time didn't know. So they took her to the hospital. She didn't know what was happening. They just called one of the family members. So when they came back and they actually told me everything, it was a lot to digest, because actually I did not even know the nature of his injury. He was burned. He died from septic burn wound. He was burned, and I never knew it was something that was serious. I knew my father as someone who was healthy. So it was quite a lot to digest at the time. To be honest, a lot happened at that time. I think I even suppressed some of the memories, because I don't even remember if I did cry. But one thing that I do remember, that I was very angry for a very long time. Not with I wouldn't say I was angry with my family, but I was really angry with his employer, because the nature of his injury did not match the kind of duties that he had at work. He did not do anything that was that could result in such an injury. And also, I think also in terms of the sense of justice, I think for me it was with my father's death. I was really angry at first. I was even angry at the state, because I felt like the state has a duty to investigate whether companies are attempting to safety procedures. So at that time, and given the fact that I have younger siblings as well, my mother was really broken by the whole situation. But I think for me, I did fall into that stereotype to say here, a man must be strong. So I felt like it was upon me to be that, actually, given the fact that I saw that everything was falling apart.
Oh, wow. Okay. And Gosnati?
Well, hey, firstly, I think because this is now a very emotional moment, let me just, on a lighter note, excuse the people who are making noise outside. I don't know if it's audible also here. So my friends, some friends of my dad's came over since it has been a year, so they just decided to come today and celebrate his life. So yeah, his friends are outside, and some of his children are also here. People who worked for him and people who really adored him. So I think this interview is coming at a very emotional time as well, because we're emotional even during the day. But to get to the question, oh man, it was very difficult. So remember, I am the one who was very close to my dad. When he started being sick, my sister was taking care of him. But when it started getting serious, I also wanted to be hands-on. And at some point, he was bleeding. I was so scared. I was so shaking. And we took him to a doctor. And then the doctor said, so he gave him pills. After giving him pills, we came back home, and he said he's not feeling any better and that his throat was dry. So I had to drive with him. So it was only me and him in the car. He wanted it to be me. So we went to see another doctor who is a sugar diabetes specialist. So when we got there, he said, this person needs to go to the hospital. So we took him to a Marathon private hospital. When we got there, they said we should refer him to Witbank Hospital. So when we got there, so along the way, I'm in the ambulance, right? And he's at the back. So I'm sitting with the driver in front, and the people are attending him at the back. And so when he's giving the people his details, he asked them, who is sitting in front there? And they tell him, it's your son. And he called me, so he used to call me Kosi. And he said, Kosi. And he said, Abba, what's I'm not worried when I get in what I mean. And for the longest time, he said, he used to put us into confidence to say that I'm not going to die anytime soon, not until I get to 70. I'm not going to leave you as orphans, and I'm not going to leave you anytime soon. So fast forward to Wednesday, the 23rd. So on Wednesday, the night before, I get a call because it was COVID times. We couldn't visit, we couldn't do anything. So the only thing we could is to call the sister in charge there. So we called the sister in charge of the COVID ward, and he told me that no, he is fine. The high blood pressure has settled. The diabetes has also settled, but it is too low. But the doctors are going to make sure that it goes up again, and he's fine. So since he's fine, he's looking for his charger and he's looking for his other phone. If I can I bring those things tomorrow morning? So with excitement, I sleep, right? So my family and I had came up with a 3-hour interval prayer. So we used to pray at 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9 every day. And I think one of the convictions that I had is that I cannot lose my father and my elder sister in just less than 3 months. So before that, I lost my sister in March, and I was like, God, you said you are not going to give me any burden that is above what I can bear. So I was sure that he was going to be okay as well. So on Wednesday, I wake up in the morning, and I get a call from Forsman Police Station, and they are looking for Nkosinathi. So when I was sitting there, we were just done with our prayer. It was past 9. So we had just finished praying. My uncle was here. My siblings were here. I think it was only one of my uncle. So I received the call and I came to my room. And obviously, in my mind, I'm thinking, why would the police station call me? Obviously, something has happened. So immediately when I called the hospital, I spoke to this other guy, and he said my father had passed away. So from that moment, I leave my room. I don't know what to say to these people. Like, I have my older sister, I have my older brother, I have my uncle. I have people who are calling to check up on him. And when I got to the dining place, I just said, Dad is no more. And for the first time, I saw my uncle being teary. My brother was teary. My little brother was just confused, sitting there, not saying anything. My sister was somehow in denial. She started praying. And so, no, it must be the wrong person. And I also drew that strength to say that, okay, let me pray. It's possible that it's the wrong person. And even if it's death, I believe that he can also wake up even in his death. So I started praying, although tears did not come out. When we went to fetch him from the hospital, and then my sister and I were sitting in the car, she started crying. And I was like, no, don't cry. It's going to be okay. And for the first time in a long time, I cried after she said this. Wathi njani Nkosi, like sesiyizintandane manje. And then I cried. Like I just felt so down. I just felt so emotional. Like the bell ringing to say that now we are orphans. He's really gone. I don't have a big sister. And that is what my sister kept on saying to us. Asna says, because now she's my older sister. At least I have a sister. She doesn't have a sister. So she said, Asna sis, omdala, asna mama, staba, asna baba. So it was a very emotional day. It was a very emotional moment. So yeah, man, it brings a lot of emotions.
Yeah. I think one of the things that the society needs to understand, based on my own experience and how I feel this conversation it's leading us, is that having a father who's present, and whom you always look up to as a young man, in terms of to please him, you wait, you long for his affirmations, you long for his affection, when he will say, son, I'm proud of you. And one of the things that happens, or rather that happened to me, was when I thought of, I think that's what broke me more than any other emotion. I felt like I still longed for his affirmation. So this what used to happen, as I work in Pretoria and at home it's in Mpumalanga. So I would actually travel month ends, and when I travel, he's the first person that I'll have to see, because he loved staying outside. He loved sitting outside with his chair and the old-fashioned radio that has a already battery, which is round, those radios. It was just old school. So when I get there, you see him. He used to call me Mukwena. That is my clay praise. And then when I arrive there, I will talk to him, and we'll really spend a lot of time together. He will tell me how proud he is of the man that I've become, and how I've never really did things that he never approved. He knew where I would be. Now, on that day, in my mind, I'm going like, those affirmations for me were secure, brought some security in my identity. I think I was very secure in my identity, because even in my manhood, you know, in the man that I'm becoming, to know that there's a voice that speaks into my ears and says powerful things, affirming words, loving words. How true is this to you guys, that a young man who's affirmed by his father, he's more secure in his identity than the one who's not? How true is that to you guys? You can come, Senzo.
Let me just jump in. I was actually thinking about the very same thing as you are talking. I believe that a father, in a way, he helps you find your voice. As you are growing, the more you observe, because your father is the first role model that you would have, the first male role model. So the more you hear him speak to you, the more you listen to your father. That is, the more you actually you become more like him, or should I say, you become more of yourself by listening to him and listening to his guidance. And that void, I think I can also speak of the fact that when he's no longer there, that void is ever present. And there's that feeling of there's something you mentioned when you spoke earlier, that it is difficult to find someone else who would fill that gap, because in the eyes of a young man or of a boy, there's no man like his father. There's no one else. You can listen to the most powerful speakers and they can say good things to you, like you're saying, affirming words, but they are not the same as the words that are coming from your father. And words that are coming from your father, they just make all the difference. And there's a sense in which one needs to hear the advice of the father. There's also a sense or a stage where you feel like you need your father to hold your hand, and which is something very difficult for us men to do, to rely on someone else and to trust someone else. And when your father is taken away, and that means you have no one to actually trust. So it's actually a big void, but having a father to play that role.
So, Nkosinathi?
Yeah, I think the need for affirmation depends on the proximity that you have with your father, and I think now that I think most of us were very close to our fathers, we can all agree that one positive word from your father, it lightens your mood. And as Senzo has mentioned, that your father should be, or mostly is your first role model. When you wake up, you see your father doing this, you want to do that. When you see him wearing a tie, you want to wear a tie. You see him driving, and you start also assuming that you are a Michael Schumacher. So all those things come with, I think, the proximity that you have with your father. And I think with mine, those little things, because my father as a black man could not really pour his heart out, although he may show in actions that he loves you, he supports you, he cannot really sit you down and say those things. But there was a time where on a phone call he said, and like it was so confusing to say that and that is the first time hearing a father figure saying to a black child or a black son, so at that moment I knew for sure that he loved me. And although I knew back then, but this was affirmation to say that this guy really is fond of me. and even beyond that. So he pushed me into studying. He pushed me into achieving a degree. He pushed me into achieving even more. So when all these things happen, and I used to send him my results, my academic transcript, my achievements, he would keep on saying that if there's one thing that you should know, and I still keep those texts. Whenever I feel down, I go back to those texts. And I'm not even sure if it's a positive trait, but I do have those texts, and every time where sorry about that, I was receiving a call. Can you hear me? Yeah. So every time when I feel so down, I go back to the text where he say, if there's one thing I'm sure of, is that you are going to be great. If there's one thing I'm sure of, is that I'm proud of you. And he would repeatedly say that, because I always had these achievements. I always had these achievements coming in. So I would send those achievements to him. And he would really affirm to say that I'm proud of you, and you are capable of doing it. And in times of exams where I'm now struggling, he would just say, being a black man, would just say, no, push, you can do it, you have done it before. Yeah, well, and although that seems very brave and very dull, they used to keep me going. So I think proximity pushes affirmation. If you are very close to your dad, and I think for although I may be going out of the question, I think it is very important as we grow up to know that our sons and our daughters would need us to at least talk to them, to encourage them, and that gives them strength, as it has done for me, and I think for a large number of people as well.
So do you think that has helped you to be more secure in your manhood?
No. So when I go anywhere, I go with the knowledge that I can do it. Yeah, I go with the knowledge. I'm having this man's gene. By the way, my father, ever since I was born, and ever since my siblings were born, from 1988, my elder sister, my father has never worked anyway. He has been a hustler. He's never worked. He has never received any payment. He has never had a pay slip, a salary. Yeah, so as an entrepreneur and as a go-getter, I have that thing which I bear this man's gene. So when I go into a room, when I go into an interview, when I go and engage with people, when I go engage with his former colleagues, I know I have either this blessing that he had or the confidence that he had, and even more. Yeah, well, because at least I can well articulate. So when I get there, I go with that confidence to say that I can do this thing. I have it in me. I can do this thing.
You've just touched on something here about the work ethics, and I think Senzo as well mentioned earlier on. He spoke about his father's work ethic. If right now, if at this moment there's one word to describe, I think you've already mentioned something. You said your father was a hustler. So the question that I wanted to ask Senzo, because you've already answered it already, is if there's one word that could describe your father's ethic, work ethic, what would it be? You heard Nkosnati said he was a hustler. Now my father was a typical provider. He brought bread. Typical provider. When he works, he goes to work. When he comes back, he brings all the money home. And he was just, he was just about work. All his life he worked. He woke up 5 a.m., 4 a.m. every day, going to work from Monday to Sunday. And we knew that when he would come back on after he has been paid, he would come back with KFC. He would even call and say, just cook up, I'm coming with meat, would come. So my father had that family. I would say it's a provider, because I wouldn't say he was a hustler. He couldn't hustle as much, but he worked hard. He worked hard for his family. So for you, Sans, what is that one word that you could think about and go like, yeah, no, this describes my father well in terms of his work ethic?
One way. I guess one way becomes a trick. But if I was to select one way, I would say
Okay.
because it's didn't work at work. It took home.
Because I didn't
So
have anything to
he
say.
was right.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that even though he was a hustler, but that is not the exact word I would use to describe him. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the exact word I would use, and this is not only because he's no longer here, but it has been
Hmm.
something that has always been stuck with me. I think if there's one word, would be champion. Like
Oh, wow.
he went out not knowing where he was going, right? But when he comes back with results. Even though sometimes they were not immediate results, but when they came in 2 weeks from that time, it would be a lump sum. So he went into places and championed as a black man, and not with many resources and not with many connections, but he was able to just go into a place and sell his dream, and people would be championed by that. And I think champion would be the exact word I would use to describe him.
Wow. Wow. So with this, uh, how have you um, established a legacy over the principal value of work ethic which he has left you with? I mean, um, in commemoration of him, how have you established a life that really says, I wanna leave a legacy that will make him proud wherever he is if he's watching? What have you done? What initiatives have you felt like I need to be moving in this way to actually honor my father? Because now with me, before you come in, Senzo, with me, um, my father was a very wise man. I mean, I remember at some point he would help me prepare sermons. I'll literally go to church to preach a message a scripture, a message, and the wisdom that I received from him when I was telling him, Dad, I'm going to preach today. And he went like, oh, nice, come, bring my Bible. Then I'll bring his Bible, I'll take mine, I'll take notes. And I'll literally go to church and preach that message. So my sister always knew that when they want me to pray, we're like, this one is going to go to my father and ask for scriptures. I did that for a very long time. I enjoyed it, in fact, such that for me, I felt like I want to write a book, or I want to write books. By that time, I had already started writing. I want to write books that will establish his legacy as a thinking tank, you know, because he was really wise. His understanding of scriptures, his understanding of life, and I felt like what I can do to really honor and build a monument of his legacy is to make sure that his wisdom is expressed through me in pen and paper. So hence, I put my mind on writing books and making sure that one day when I publish this book, it's all for the honor and commemoration of his impact in my life. So with you, Senzo, what is that thing that you feel like, you know what, I need this, an initiative that I have to uh, do to honor my father's life and my father's legacy on earth?
One thing my father said, my father was the son of a farmer from Swaziland. So my father said to me, um, he told me a story that they would actually wake up every morning and go to the field. And he said, you guys don't have field, but you guys have your book. So if you work that field, if you work a field, it always yield harvest. And I think that has I've seen that in my life. But also, it's not only, I would say, the work and getting the result that inspired me the most about his work. What inspired me the most was his reason for working. He never worked for himself. It was never about him. It was always about others. And for me, if that is I think that's my lifetime goal. If I work, if I push, it's not for me. If I do it for me, then I would not have I have with that.
Oh wow. With you, Nkosinathi?
I think with me it's two things. One is to never give up, and the other one is giving. So my father once mentioned, although I've never seen the qualification, but he once mentioned that he had an N6. So being a man with an N6 at the time would have scored him a very good job at the time. But he started by selling jewelry, started by selling necklaces, Muslim fiber necklaces.
Yeah.
And then he went on to sell ice cream, and he went on to sell milk. And then later, when I was growing older, he then opened his company. So I think as a man having a family and going around Zonki's number selling ice cream would have deterred him, and maybe he would want to go and work somewhere. But because he had a dream and he had a mission and he had a vision, he stayed there, and it got him to where he was. So I think in my specific terrain, the legacy would be not to give up. If I have a vision and if I'm set on it, then I stay there until the fruits bear. And when the fruits bear, because I don't know if you have seen this initiative, but which is something I've learned from my father. I've posted it a few times. So my father would select 10 families, random families that he doesn't know, people not from my area, people from outside our area. So it's select 10 families who are needy. And then whenever he gets some cash, he would then go and offer those family food, especially during December times. So that is something that I also earned for myself, to say that whenever I because I'm still in the starting stages, I do this once every 4 months. And if I'm fortunate, I do it twice or 2 times a month, to say that if there's a family that is in need, a family that I know that is in need, then I also go and assist in whatever way I can with the little that I have, so that they can also. Apologies, my phone is a little bit busy. So yeah, I think that's that. Not save time, but I think one thing is not to give up in anything that you are doing. And give. Yeah.
Wow. So I can hear that we were really blessed to have the kind of fathers that we had. They really sound and feel like superheroes. But as we know that every man has a weakness, they somehow struggle. What is one struggle to which you feel like your father struggled that you feel like you need to conquer? Like you look at the struggle and you say, you know what, I observed as great as he was, as loving as he was, as good as he was, he struggled here, and I want to rectify that. I want to give my kids a better version of that kind of effect that it might have had on you when you were growing up and even when you were old. I'm asking this because when I think about my own life, I realize that with me, we started being very close to my father in my late 20s. All this time, I was just growing. He would say we were not really close. When you talk about, I wouldn't even go to town with him. Like we're not that close. I had no much to spend with him. I remember Senzo would go to debating meetings. Sometimes he would be there, and I hope like he would be around, but he would have to sleep because the next day he has to go to work, or rather, he's going to work at night. So he wouldn't be able to attend whether it's a soccer tournament, whatever the case may be. And when I grew older, I felt like I wish I had heard him see me really on the field, because I remember there was one time I came with a medal. We have won a tournament, and I showed it to him, and we're like, "Wow, congratulations!" But in my heart, I felt like I wish you could have seen me play. You know, there are many other times where I would perform at church, I would preach. There are a lot of activities that I would be involved that I felt like, only if he was there to see what I can do, So for me, I think that it's a struggle I felt, or a weakness that he had, in a way that he was not always there when I was young. He started being there even when I was older, and now I was making time, forcing it. And now you could see that he's also coming into it and able to open up about how proud he was with me, And so I said to myself, you know what? If there's one thing that I can work on now, is to make sure that my kids, they're going to come before work, So if it means sacrificing the job for their mini soccer tournament in grade 7, let it be. If it's gonna mean it's unpaid, if they'll have to come first, even with those little things, So for me, that's what I felt. What I need to rectify, because it has left a sense of dissatisfaction of fatherhood. It's like right now I'm old, but I'm still mourning those childhood moments. I wish he could have seen me in action. He could have seen me play soccer. He could have seen me debate. He could have seen me win the choral competition. He could have seen me being called to preach as a 17-year-old. And I'm like, you know what? I think with my kids, moving forward, I want to really do something that will not reflect that, as a father. So for you, Senzo, what is it that you feel like, you know what, this might have been something that my dad couldn't do, or was a struggle to which I feel I need to rectify for the next generation that comes?
Sure. I think it's very difficult to look back at that. But one thing, some of the things, I would say, maybe there was as a result of maybe circumstances that were there at the time, of which, when those things they are happening, you would think that you wouldn't see anything wrong with it. I think from my side, it would be, I think there were times when there were gaps. When my father got employment, I think it was year 2000. He had to, since from 2000, he worked far from home. I think for a period of more than 5, for a period of about 7 years. So we only see him once in a while. So that kind of created a gap, of which maybe those are some of the things maybe I believe that maybe when we look at those opportunities and things like that, we should consider the relationship that we have with our children. But from my side, it did not really have that negative impact, in the sense of we no longer had a relationship. We had a good relationship. I guess we understood the situation, and that he was subject to those circumstances. But I think just that there shouldn't be. I think we should try by all means have not to have gaps in between. I think also even when I was at university, I don't like speaking much over the phone, same as my father didn't like speaking much over the phone. So that that created also some form of a gap. So the only time I would actually get to speak with my father was over the holidays, of which I think those are some of the gaps in the future I might consider closing with my kids.
So would you say that moving here forward with your own kids or with the next generation, you'd want to make sure that there is no gap in between you and your sons or you and your daughters?
Yeah, that's what I would say. Like there shouldn't be gaps, especially in terms of time, because when you don't see or speak to people for a period of time, you kind of grow apart. It's not intended, but you grow apart. So to prevent such things, I think we should try by all means. Even if a kid is at varsity, call in one weekend and just pop in.
Okay. So with you, Ngosnati.
Yeah. So I think our concerns are similar, because I think also one thing that our dads try to do is to respect us, to an extent that even if there is an error that he may commit, he commits it very far from you. So I think that is also one thing that my dad did so well, is that he respected us here at home, and we never had any problems with anyone externally because of him. If he had problems, then we deal with them outside of that. But I think if there is one thing I would want to rectify as a father, or as a father to be in the next coming years, is to have conversations, and have the most sensitive conversations with either my son or to some extent my daughter as well. Because I think although we used to converse, but we used to converse on what I've achieved, only the good things that I do. So when I go to him, I know that if I mention this, he's going to be proud, and we're going to have a very joyful conversation. But if I had a problem, if I had some issues, I could not go to my dad and say, Baba, I have this kind of an issue. For example, in this growing society of maybe men being dogs and being in this very hasty relationship, I could not go to my father and say, so now I have a girlfriend, and in this relationship, this is the problems that I am having with this particular person. Or to go to my father and say, since you know that I'm friends with Senzo, Senzo and I had problems or had difficulties at school, and we ended up fighting, and I would want to engage him and mend our relationship. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that although my father and I had conversations, but we did not have conversations as openly and as sensitive as they could be. It was only guides, in life, this is what you should do, or Baba, I've achieved this, and now from this point I want to go somewhere. Where do I go? So those are the kinds of conversations that we used to have, but we couldn't have sensitive conversations, personal conversations. So I think if I were to be a father, I would want to have those conversations with my son, and obviously from an early age, because it is very difficult. Although I knew I can have these conversations with my father, but it was the relationship was already too not broken, but too serious in a manner to say that I cannot make this man understand or listen to this particular conversation. It would seem as an insult if I were to bring this conversation to him. So I think to have very sensitive, open, personal conversations with my children at a very young age is possible.
Okay. Now I would like us to close, because I know this is a conversation that can go without end. But before we close, let's talk in the next 5 minutes or so. There's a young man, there's a young black man out there who just lost his father. Maybe it's yesterday, maybe it's the day before. If you are to say anything to him about the loss of his father, what is it that you'd say to him, Senzo?
One thing that I'm not sure if it's all men who have this problem, but with grief with us, our grief is kind of prolonged. It's like we wait for everyone else to grieve, then we'll have our own time, apart from everyone to grieve. But what I would say to someone who's grieving or lost a father or a parent is that allow yourself to grieve and allow yourself to be comforted, because you, in a way, it does sound like you don't have a choice, but actually it does come to a point where you refuse to be comforted. When you refuse to be comforted, it's like you just want to carry that pain and that emotion for a very long time. You refuse. You want to hold on to it. So you must. I think you must allow yourself to be comforted, and also be patient with yourself, because you don't deal with pain the same way. Be patient with yourself and allow yourself to breathe. That is very very important.
Constantine?
Yeah. I honestly do not think there's any right conversation or any right words you can say to someone who has lost anyone. But I think Senzo has mentioned the one most important thing: grief. Do not hold it back. Do not try to be strong. Do not try to stand firm. If the tears want to come, let them come. If you want to remember him, remember him. If you want to wear his jersey, wear his jersey. If there's anything that you want to do in your grieving moment, just do that. But make sure that you grieve, because I think time heals. Time heals most of these things. It's gonna be a day where you don't remember him, and then a day turns into a week into a month, and a month into a year. But all these things take time, and you have to deal with yourself. You have to let the emotions come out. You have to ensure that you grieve. And that is the only thing I would say, to say that I do not have the right words to say to you. I've been in that situation. I've heard people talking to me. I've heard different stories. I've heard different verses. I've heard different sermons. I've read different messages, but nothing numbed the pain. The only thing that numbed the pain is that I grieved. I warmed up to the idea. I started embracing the good man that he was, and that is how I got through it.
No, thank you guys for this wonderful time that you just had. And with my last words, my last remarks is every young man who has lost his father, he's a seed of a fallen tree. He will grow, he'll flourish to bear the fruits that will represent his father. So whatever that we do, our grieving as well, I do agree with the grieving part. Our grieving should be a positive grief that seeks to establish legacy than it seeks to cry over a moment. But we need to cry, we need to open up about the conversation of how we feel. Each time when you feel like you miss your dad, talk about it to someone you trust and open up about all the memories, all the drama that you've gone through. But know one thing, that it is important that you build a legacy that represent a better version of your father in you. So guys, thank you so much. I hope you viewers enjoyed our conversation. You drew wisdom and knowledge from our own experiences. So may you all be blessed. Have a blessed night. Thank you, guys.